All right, welcome back to The Dilemma. I'm Emma
And I'm Brian
Burns. And today we're going to be talking about building trust virtually.
Yeah, but I'd like to start off with some sad news. One of the, I wouldn't say one of the, but the greatest soccer player of all time, Pele, has passed away this past week. He died of multiple organ failure on the 29th of December, 2022. There's a great story about him that I heard, where when he was 10 years old, he saw his father cry for the first time when Brazil lost in the World Cup final. And it was upsetting to his father. He saw the tears and he went to his father and said, Father, I'm going to win the World Cup for you someday. And sure enough, he kept his word. 7 years later, at the age of 17, he won the World Cup, scoring 2 goals in the final. He scored. He was the youngest player to score a goal in a World Cup, the youngest to win a World Cup, and he actually scored a hat trick in one of the World Cup games. So all kinds of records that he broke during his lifetime. And when you think of players like Messi and Ronaldo and Maradona, they are the greatest, some of the greatest players in the world. Pele was just way above even those players. He's the only player to have won 3 World Cup championships. So this picture that I'm showing you, I actually received from Pele. When I was in college, a friend was dating his niece. She was here in the US on a study abroad program and was kind enough to give him a call and ask him to autograph this picture to me for me and send it to me. And I've had it on my wall
ever since. Just a tribute to him almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As great, one of the greatest
of all time. Fans. So for soccer people, this is a big deal.
That's right. It's a sad week for soccer fans, or football, as they call it in most countries.
Yes. But today I think we wanted to jump into
building trust
virtually, which is something I don't think a lot of us were prepared for, or maybe could even answer the question as to how to build trust virtually a few years ago. But I think ever since the pandemic, all of our mindsets and work atmospheres have shifted. So majority of us are working from home. We're taking calls, doing demos, even like meeting people for the first time. It's all virtually. And so along with that comes trust. When you're not meeting people in person, they don't really get a feel for your personality. And so we're having to juggle building trust with people.
Yeah, building trust virtually.
Sharing our personalities, but just online.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're not working from home, you might be working with somebody that's working from home. So you're still speaking to people and coworkers and customers virtually.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most important things is to communicate. Right? Say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say, and let people know. So instead of making people guess, and unfortunately, when people are having to guess, the old adage of no news is good news doesn't apply when it comes to this. In this case, people assume no news is bad news. Yeah. So especially if you're in a management role, it's good to communicate, let people know what's going on, because if they're not in the office and they can't see for themselves or hear for themselves, they're going to make assumptions. So it's good to kind of communicate, make sure people know what's happening, what the direction of the company is, the department, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. I would say my first thing would just be to reach out to people. So it's good to get that first impression in there, but it's also good to make sure that you're keeping up with them. So whether that's following them on LinkedIn or, making sure you're doing the follow-ups every so often, or if it's your manager or your peers, making sure you're emailing them and reaching out, checking in on them. It's just it's building your personality, but online. And
Yeah.
a lot of that comes with, yeah, just checking in with people and staying up to date.
Reach out to a coworker that maybe if you were in the office, you'd stop by their desk and say hello,
Yeah.
bring them a cup of coffee or whatever.
Teams them, call them,
Teams them, yeah, call them, chat with them.
directly text them to their mobile phone.
That's good. Another
Yeah,
thing,
well,
more from a management perspective, but it can apply to anybody, is in order to get trust, you have to give trust.
mhm,
So,
yeah.
you know, by trusting your employees or trusting your coworkers to do things with, or even trusting them with, I don't know.
Working virtually.
There you
Because a
go.
lot of that can be a big deal for companies is the trust factor. I actually remember when I was talking to the CEO, Lee Turner, and she's like,
CEO of Ceridian.
yeah, and she's like, we trust everyone until we're, proven not to.
Mm.
And the best thing you can do for your employees is trust them to work virtually and get the job done. And it's
So lead with trust,
Yeah.
assume trust versus, not trusting them first. You want to trust first and then wait, if they give you a reason not to, then you can address that. But until they do that, then trust your people, trust them,
Yeah.
even trust them with some personal information, things that you feel comfortable sharing, obviously, but they'll feel closer to you. They'll feel like they can trust you if you show them that you trust them.
Yeah, I think that creates a healthy working environment when you feel like your employer trusts you as an employee.
For sure. And I think that leads to the next one that I was thinking of is to be open and honest.
Mhm.
So if there is bad news, share it.
Yeah.
Don't try to hide it. Don't try to talk around it. People respond better to sincerity, to self-disclosure,
Honesty.
openness, honesty. Yep, exactly. And they'd rather hear that from you, I think, than to wonder or to
Yeah.
find out later or to find out from someone else some bad
Mhm.
news. I think it's best to just get it out there and talk about how you're going to address it.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if you're sharing this with your manager, they'll be the first one to help you
Mhm.
figure it out, especially if just in the past or in the relationship you have built, it's been built on trust. Then when bad things come up, normally it's something that is.
Yeah, and as a manager, if you're in a management role, share with your people, tell them what's happening, even if
Mhm.
it's tough news, like, hey, like we're in a bad economy right now. It's what most people would consider
Share how that'll affect them and just be open and honest about it
a recession is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a recession, right? Some people say we are, some say we aren't. Regardless, the economy is struggling. There's certain companies that are having a tough time. So be honest, tell them that, hey, we're struggling. And I think that employees like to know that and what you're doing to address it so
Yeah,
that they can
100%.
so they can help participate in it.
What's funny is a lot of times people can tell when there's like something in the room that's not being addressed, like
Exactly.
when it's like that feeling when you're on a call and everyone's wondering the same thing, and it's like it's almost more frustrating and less transparent to not address it than to address it with bad news.
Our CEO does something where he actually holds it like almost like a town hall every
Mhm.
month, and
Yeah.
we get on the phone and everybody's on there and he just talks to us like, and sometimes like he does this, and he had like one day he had to take his kid to school and there was traffic, so he ended up just pulling over and talking to us from his car, right? So it kind of builds trust because
And
he's just being real. This is reality. This is his reality, right? He had to get his kid to school. It's part of life. But he didn't want to neglect us and cancel. He just got on the phone and talked to us and said, here's what's happening. And an example is, hey, with the downturn in the economy, we're going to cut back on some of our travel expenses. So let's think deeply about your travel. Don't not do it, but don't do it unless it's necessary.
Yeah.
And people can get on board with that. That's a reasonable thing to ask.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. And that's just another way to figure out, the problem.
Yeah, it's the honesty, and I think he does a good job of just being honest and open with us as employees, and a great example of good leadership.
Yep. I would say my next one is just kind of contradicting to maybe, the example you just gave, but I would say that it's important to make efforts every so often to be in person because you are virtual so often or a lot that creating events or coming to their office if it's a customer or a prospect you're trying to win a deal with. Of course, you're going to eventually go there, but maybe early on in the process, pop in part of your marketing campaign. Or if it's your business office and there's one near you and you haven't been in, for example, there's one near me in Fountain Valley, and I've yet to go to that one because I was in Florida and I moved down here, and it's about an hour and a half drive, so it's not an easy drive, but it would probably make a big impact if I went in there, introduced myself to people I've never met before.
Absolutely.
And that helps to build the trust so that when you are virtually, they can put a face to a name, personality to a name, and yeah, it just helps with this.
Well, in that same vein, like, okay, so meeting people in person is one thing, but perhaps if you can't do that, maybe it's not possible to get everybody together in one place, or it's difficult, or it's too expensive. Things that I've done in the past is do like a virtual wine tasting, right? Partner up with a wine vendor, have them send out wine to each, like in my case, it was customers or prospects that I was courting, right? That want to do business or continue doing business with me. So send them first you confirm that they want to do this, right? But then most of them are working from home. So they're sending some wine to their house. You can even send them a branded wine glass or whatever, right? It's still cheaper than flying out there. And and then do an event where the wine vendor gets on and talks about the wines and talks about wine tasting and all these things, how it's made. And it's kind of fun. And what's unique about that is that you really do start to feel like you're in the room with them. They're sitting in their living room sometimes or in their kitchen, and you're talking to them and they're very comfortable. So they might open up and be a little bit more open. They're having a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of create an environment virtually sometimes that can make people feel more comfortable and start to trust you because their guard is down and yours is down, and you're just enjoying a glass of wine together over a Zoom call. Yeah, so that's another option to actually meeting in person if you can't do that.
Yep.
Another one I think is I'll combine two. One is keeping your commitments, and the other is to be consistent.
Yeah.
So
100%.
if I say I'm going to send you an email, as simple as that sounds, send it. If I say I'm going to call you at a certain time or on a certain day, do it. I think I shared with you when we were talking about gaining access to companies, one of the things I would do if they weren't interested in taking a look at my solution that day when I called, I would say, hey, when's a better time to check in with you? And they would say, oh, would 3 months be good, 6 months, whatever that is. Whatever I got them to agree to, I would put it in my calendar and call them then and say, hey, you asked me to call you, and 6 months ago we spoke and you said to call me. That's keeping my commitment. And people really respect that. They begin to build trust. They begin to trust you. So I think people read actions that actually sync up with your words.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that it adds to the overall solution that they're buying from, because for us, like, they're buying from people.
People buy from people they like and they trust, right? That's the.
And I think also going along with that is kind of my next one, but it's to stay organized. And this might be kind of controversial, but to be like when you're joining a call, to be on camera.
Oh yeah.
I think
so some people don't like to be on camera, so they leave their photo up there.
I am guilty of this a lot of times during team calls. I'm doing something, or maybe I don't feel presentable that day. Like, not in the sense like I didn't get ready for the day because I was going to an office, but maybe I just don't want to be on camera that day.
Right.
But I do think it's very important because I notice a difference when I'm talking to someone and they're on camera. I feel like we're having a conversation. But if they're off camera, I feel like
There's more distance between you. There's this
Yeah.
gap, a little bit of a gap.
it's interesting, but it is just like a huge game changer. It's like being in the office every day versus teamsing people every day.
Yeah.
There's just a kind of a disconnect when you do just have your picture. It's like people wonder more about what's going on in your world than the conversation itself because you aren't on camera and they don't know that you're like speaking.
Well, and again, back to the assuming, they don't assume that, they kind of assume bad, right? Something, maybe they're assuming that you're not really listening or
Present.
engaged or whatever. Another small thing, as far as that goes, if you're not able to be on video, make sure you have a good picture. Don't put one from 15 years ago up there.
I don't know about that one.
Don't just have your initials up there.
I agree with that one. I know this guy from my company. His name's Rocky. He's super cool. I hope he doesn't mind me shouting him out. But he's pretty cool. And
He rides a motorcycle. He's got a Ducati. Yeah. I know Rocky. I know.
you do?
Well, I know I worked for Ceridian for some time, so I know a little bit
He's
about
a
it.
BDR.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Rocky, sales leader.
Oh,
Different Rocky. Wow. Sorry.
yeah, different Rocky, but he does ride a motor. I think he rides a motorcycle,
Okay.
and he has like his picture like next to a motorcycle. And I don't know how old it is, but it doesn't seem like the most like professional. However, it's a conversation starter, and he looks really cool in it. And
Okay, so that's fair, but
maybe not a picture
think
in your
about the picture.
bathroom with like a selfie stick.
think about the picture. You don't want one where you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And for a different audience, right? If it's
For the most part, I will agree with that. But if you are going to choose a fun one, like make it something like it's a conversation starter.
Yeah, sure.
But along with my organization one, I think it was just basically like keep your calendar up to date. Like you kind of said with the communication, like just make sure people know what you're doing, and being organized is also just helps people know.
So here's another one that I found is can be really effective is to be accessible and responsive. So
That's part of the like being organized. Just
it is, but for example, I have Teams on my phone, right? So if I happen to step away from my desk or I have to go run an errand because I'm working from home, I'm afforded that kind of flexibility. It's fine. But I also make sure, like, if my boss sends me a Teams message, I respond from wherever I am. I don't wait until I'm sitting back at my desk. I try to get back to him as soon as possible, or I'll call him.
Yeah.
Or if a customer, for example, or a coworker is trying to reach me and they call me, I'll either call them right back, or if I'm on another call or unable to respond, I'll send them a quick message saying, hey, I'll call you at this time, and then I do it.
Yeah.
So being responsive and being accessible, I think, is huge, because if people can't reach you, then again, they're going to assume, oh, he's farting around at work, at home, or whatever, farting around.
Which, yeah.
Because there is a lot. I mean, let's be real. There is a lot of temptation to throw, do some dishes or throw a load of laundry in the washer when you're at home, working from home.
Maybe you should stand up and show everyone what's
I'm wearing full dress attire.
No, he's not.
Business attire.
He's wearing sweatpants.
Yes.
And just before this, he was
But
making
nobody
a cup of
knows.
coffee.
Nobody knows this.
No, but yeah, it's just important. Like those are just our few tips to build trust virtually, but it is difficult, and I think we're still learning along the way. So well, it's not difficult for a trustworthy person, but I think with dealing constantly with new prospects, it's hard to build that over and over. And I think some of these little tips can help, whether you're starting at a new job, whether you're reaching out to prospects, whether you're, meeting with your team constantly. So make good impressions, and yeah. That's it.
Yeah. I think those are our main ideas around building trust virtually.
Yeah.
Hope that was helpful.
Yeah.
What was our closing question? I forgot what it was.
I don't think we had one, but what's your favorite pizza?
My favorite pizza? I like, there's a pizza place near me called Mountain Bikes.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
it's pretty good.
Their pepperoni is actually it's really unique. They're
Like a
little
salami.
tiny ones, and they kind of turn into a little cup. And they put a lot of them on there, and they have a mountain size, so it's like bigger than any large that you've
Yeah.
ever seen. It's massive.
Yeah.
But I actually I've been kind of into for a while now, like a chicken barbecue pizza, barbecue chicken. I just kind of liking that with some red onion and maybe some gorgonzola.
Yeah. I would say mine. Okay, so this might sound kind of strange, but the other day I was given a cauliflower pizza with vegan cheese. And for all my girls or guys out there that have stomach issues around dairy, it was really delicious, like very tasty, in my opinion. Not everyone from the group enjoyed it, but I did enjoy it, and my stomach didn't hurt afterwards. So I think that's the new thing I'm on is cauliflower crust pizza. It was thin, kind of crispy, which is really good, and then it had just like the vegan cheese on it, and it was a tomato sauce, but I think it was just tomato sauce.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the feedback I heard was that the crust was delicious, but the cheese was a little
It had like almost
sticky.
like a peanut butter texture
Yeah.
to it. But I didn't
But
mind.
it keeps you from having stomach issues, right? So
It melted, it was delicious, and I got to eat pizza, so
there you go.
it's a win-win.
I guess you could do it not non-cheese too. You could just have vegetables and stuff on there and
Yeah, 100%.
extra sauce or something. That'd be good. So
But we will catch you guys next week with another dilemma. And yeah, bye.
bye.